Why have you brought us here?
All of you are my ultimate weapon.
Yo. Designed for disaster, from the mind of the master. Plot thicker than encyclopedias with unlimited chapters. Face like I play poker, so you get.
What is going on, everybody? This is your friendly neighborhood coach coming at you, and it was nice, so we're gonna do it twice. Had some technical difficulties, but got everything fixed. This is the next installment of the Locker Room. I am your friendly neighborhood coach, and for the next 60 minutes, we're gonna talk all things Cleveland sports. I'm a Cleveland boy, Cleveland bred. I'm gonna be one till I'm Cleveland gone. I'm telling you. So, if you have not subscribed to the Locker Room, I want you to go to YouTube, type in the Locker Room 34, like, subscribe, comment, share, give me your thoughts. Because in today's episode, we're going over Todd Monken introduction. The new coach of the Cleveland Browns had an introductory press conference, and it was some interesting things that he said. Plus, found out yesterday Jim Schwartz resigned his position. He is no longer the defensive coordinator for the Cleveland Browns. What direction does Todd Monken go in? Then we're going to go over our draft, which is our wide receiver from USC, Mekhi Lemon, and the offensive lineman, Francis Maioga from the University of Miami. Myles Garrett, Defensive Player of the Year. Are you shocked? Let's talk about it. Carson Schlesinger, Rookie Defensive Player of the Year. On the same squad, I'm going to give my Super Bowl predictions. Deion Sanders speaks about his son Shedeur. We're going to get into the Pro Bowl, and we have another first ballot Hall of Famer denied, Mr. Robert Kraft. We're going to get into that. Plus the Cavaliers, man, they had a whirlwind this week. They made several trades. This whole squad looks different, and we're going to talk about who was the mastermind of all these trades. Kobe Altman stepped out front, but I think it was Donovan Mitchell. We'll get into that. All right. And are the Cavs contenders? Does the trades now make them a contender? Okay. We'll talk about a little James Harden as well. And then my coach's rant will be Jim Schwartz. Why is it such a big deal? What's the big deal by Jim Schwartz no longer being defensive coordinator? I'm going to give you the pros and cons of it. So welcome once again unto the Locker Room. This episode is sponsored by the Let's Talk About It podcast. I just don't talk about sports, y'all. I talk about life. And I take time and help folks understand that they're better today than they were yesterday and look forward to tomorrow. So if you want to get a little bit of help in terms of navigating this game that we call life, go to YouTube and type in the Let's Talk About It podcast, or go to Let's Talk About It .34. And we'll talk about how you can be better. So this episode is sponsored by the Let's Talk About It podcast. All right, let's get this thing started. Like I said, once again, I apologize for the technical difficulties. Hopefully I got everything together. So we're going to get into this one more time. Todd Monken had an introductory press conference, and he said some very poignant things. But one thing I want to look at is what he said regarding Jim Schwartz. So he had some poignant comments when it came to Jim Schwartz. And shout out to Mary Kay Cabot and the Cleveland Browns organization for this footage. Let's go ahead and let's listen to Todd Monken.
Todd, on the day that Jim Schwartz supposedly left the building and said he wasn't coming back, Myles Garrett had a reaction to that on Instagram where he showed, someone hanging their head. Denzel Ward has said, I really want Jim Schwartz back here. So my question to you is, I know you can't go into detail about your convo with Jim, but what can you say to these players, or how confident are you that these players are going to like the direction that you're going to be able to go on defense? And will you be able to maintain the incredibly high standards of the defense, even if Jim doesn't come back?
Well, first off, my anticipation is we're not going to change the system. Very difficult to go against. not planning on changing the system. We're built for the system that they're in currently. And I'm not going to get into staffing because that's not at this time to get into that. But they can be rest assured that we're going to keep the same system. We're still going to let them attack. We're still going to let them play free. I can't see any other way. They're a big reason why I took this job.
Hey,
The
Siri,
defensive players. I didn't take this job because of Jim Schwartz.
give me NBA trades.
I have a lot of respect for Jim Schwartz, but as I would hope he has for me. But I took it because of the players that are here, the ownership, Andrew Barry, and the ability to build this roster from the ground up on the offensive side. So, and I said this to the other guys. I didn't think I'd say it, but I'm going to say it. When I was preparing for the Cleveland Browns, I wasn't trying to chip Jim Schwartz. I was chipping Myles Garrett. And when I was sliding a protection to the outside backers or Grant Delpit that were blitzing off the edge, I was sliding the protection of the players. And when I was worried about throwing to the right against Denzel Ward or Tyson Campbell to the left, that's who I was worried about throwing at.
Tony?
And that was Todd Monken. And those comments that he made were very, very poignant. Okay. He basically let it be known that I would like Jim Schwartz to come back, but I don't need him to be successful. And I truly appreciate what Todd Monken said. Because listen, I'm a big Jim Schwartz fan, but I'll get into this in my coach's rant, not saying what the big deal is. Okay. But Todd Monken is a football guy who said football stuff, who wants football excellence, who's willing to hold his players accountable. I understand. I think in 2019, he was the Browns offensive coordinator. They said he was a real negative person, just paraphrasing, and talked about the dysfunction of the organization. Hopefully he has grown from it. He's coming back. He's going to coach this team. He's going to put his coaching staff together. I heard Jason Tarver, who was the linebackers coach in Jim Schwartz's system, is going to be considered to be DC. And so I really, really appreciate Todd Monken's press conference. There was a lot of emotion when he talked about his family, his journey, when he talked about, being making this team a kick butt team. I'm paraphrasing. He said all the right things. He said the right things when it came to Shador. He said all the right things. And so now it's time to come and show and prove. And so I'm going to ride with Todd Monken, like I said, on 3 the hard way until he gives me a reason not to. I'm going to give him an opportunity, okay? We gave Kevin Stefanski 6 years. The least we can do is give Todd Monken an opportunity to try to turn this team around, all right? As I said, Jim Schwartz gave his resignation. He is no longer the DC, the defensive coordinator for the Cleveland Browns. He was a bit upset because he did not get the head coach's position. I said before, yes, his behavior after that, I don't think was professional if it was reported correctly. However, we don't know what the Cleveland Browns told him through the interviewing process. We have no idea what they said to Jim Schwartz. Okay, we don't know. So Jim Schwartz resigned his position Friday. He is not going to be a coordinator at the pro level this year because he is still under contract with the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns still have his rights. So Jim Schwartz is either going to A, sit for the year and then come back, or he can be released from his contract by the Browns, or if he did pursue a job, it would have to be a higher level job that he has, currently than he has right now. So don't be surprised to see that he possibly could reunite with Kevin Stefanski in Atlanta. I'm not saying that is reported, but the only way that Jim Schwartz could get out of his Browns contract is if the Atlanta Falcons brought him in and made him not only defensive coordinator, but assistant head coach, because that is a level up. And if you level up from one job to another and you're up under contract, that organization has to release you from that contract. But I don't see Jim Schwartz coaching the remainder of this upcoming football season. I don't see it. Now, by Jim Schwartz being gone, is that a hit? Could be. Like I said, I'm gonna save that toward the coach's rant. All right. Myles Garrett is the defensive player of the year. Nobody's shocked. That was a consensus. All votes went to Myles Garrett. 23 sacks during the season. Just a monumental season for the defensive end of the Cleveland Browns. Does this make Myles Garrett a Hall of Famer? Some folks say yes. Some folks say no. Coach Young says yes. His numbers alone has put him in the upper echelon of defensive players in NFL history. Okay? Your Bruce Smiths, your Reggie Whites. He's in that ilk. Your Lawrence Taylors. He's in that ilk. I'm not saying he's Lawrence Taylor, but he is in that pantheon of defensive players. Myles Garrett is single-handedly one of the most dominant players in the NFL today. Now, what is slowing Myles Garrett down? He's not winning. They won 5 games and he got 23 sacks, which is a monumental type of trophy because of the fact that teams late in the game weren't throwing. Okay? But you always want to solidify your legacy by winning. Lawrence Taylor won Super Bowls. Reggie White, Super Bowls. TJ Watt, Super Bowl. Okay? You got those ilk. JJ didn't win one. JJ's a great player. So you do have players who didn't win a Super Bowl. Bruce Smith did not win a Super Bowl. Okay? You got guys who didn't win a Super Bowl who are still great. But winning helps. Okay? So I do believe that Myles Garrett is a first ballot Hall of Famer. Okay? Carson Schlesinger, that same night, won Rookie Defensive Player of the Year. Carson Schlesinger had a tremendous year. Carson Schlesinger is an absolute monster. And I cannot wait to see how he improves next year. Hopefully the Browns will sign Devin Bush back. Devin Bush had a career year in this Schwartz type of defense. And prayerfully, we may see the return of Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. If JOK comes back, this will be a tremendous linebacking core with that front four. Okay? That defense will be tremendous. If you add Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, that would be a tremendous defense. Okay? But once again, going back to Todd Monken, I love what he said. He's going to have this defense attacking. This defense is going to attack. This defense is going to be flying. This defense is not going to change. So all his focus will be is to improve the offensive line and the receiving core. Speaking of the offensive line and receiving core, let's get into our draft, shall we? So we're going to talk today about Makai Lemon, wide receiver from USC, and also Francis Mayoga, the offensive tackle from Miami. Okay? Let me preface this. I've been saying this each week. I do not believe that the Browns should spend a number 6 pick on an offensive lineman. I believe that if you cannot get a wide receiver with the number 6 pick, that you trade down and you rebuild your offensive line. You can find your receiver in the later round. You can find a couple of them. Makai Lemon may be one of them. Okay? There's a couple other receivers that are out here. All right? Do you like Jalen, not Jalen Tyson. Jalen Tyson, that's his brother. Jordan Tyson. Okay? Carnell Tate out of Ohio State. They could be there. Now, if one of those 2 receivers are there, the Browns should jump on it immediately. If those 2 receivers are gone, I know a lot of the mock drafts have been talking about grabbing an offensive lineman at number 6. There is no way that I would grab an offensive lineman with the number 6 pick. Okay? So let's talk about Francis Mayoga, lineman out of the University of Miami.
Let's take a closer look at Francis Mauigoa. Francis Mauigoa is a 6'6", 315-pound, true junior right tackle prospect for the Miami Hurricanes. Despite still being just 20 years old, Mauigoa is one of the most experienced tackles in the 2026 draft class. Since he won the job as a true freshman, Mauigoa has started 36 games at the time of recording, with over 2,300 snaps to his name, on one of the most productive offensive lines in the ACC. Mauigoa also made the Bruce Feldman freak list before the 2025 college football season. Let's start with, in my opinion, Francis Mauigoa's biggest strength: run blocking. As a run blocker, Mauigoa is a raw, mauling, naturally powerful blocker with strength and mass in his legs and lower half, supplying an exceptional power profile when projecting him to the NFL level. He consistently displaces would-be tacklers and finishes off blocks effortlessly. Mauigoa has a mean streak in him and is a tone setter in the run game. As a pass protector, Mauigoa shows a strong ability to get out of his stance and gain ground quickly. Due to his thicker, stockier lower half, there are physical limitations that surface against speed rushers. As Mauigoa isn't naturally going to widen the pocket without a jump set, but he does compensate for that by playing long and assertive with his hands. When his feet aren't perfectly positioned relative to the rusher, he uses timing and hand accuracy to create extension and maintain control to make up ground. More on Mauigoa's frame. Despite his stock appearance and thicker lower half, Mauigoa moves extremely well. He shows excellent foot quickness and general lower body fluidity, though he tends to be a short strider. While his lower body mass can occasionally make movement more challenging, he compensates with violent, intentional movement, twitch, and overall effort. Francis Mauigoa is a fantastic NFL draft prospect, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't come with some areas of concern when projecting him to the NFL level. Mauigoa has a great power package for the NFL, but his overall anchor concerns me a little bit. Whether it's setting out to wide rushers or even just being high-hipped in the run game, Mauigoa will rely too much on his natural power to win, rather than his posture and leverage. Mauigoa plays a bit too tall for me at times. Despite Mauigoa's raw power and natural athleticism, some of his measurables are a bit questionable to play offensive tackle at the NFL level. I do think his frame is better suited to play guard at the NFL level. Mauigoa's arm length is average at best to win against those bigger, longer edge rushers at the NFL level. Mauigoa lacks some of the range and protection to set out and beat speed rushers to the spot. His thick lower half makes it difficult to redirect or attack with his feet. Lastly, I think Mauigoa has trouble diagnosing stunts and doesn't often pick up on delayed blitzers. It seems like he always is just a tick or so behind, lunging forward towards blitzers and displacing his hands, often leading to being flagged, as he has 14 penalties against him since the start of the 2024
that's one person's
season.
opinion, okay, that he, some of the flaws and the faults that he have. He's projected to be the first lineman that's taken off the board. Now, like I said, I don't agree with taking a lineman at number 6, okay? I do agree in watching him, and I watched him in the national championship game. I watched him against Ohio State. He is an absolute mauler. He is an absolute mauler. But I don't project him as a tackle at the NFL level. I think he would be a guard, as was said in this film. I think he's a guard, but I think he could be a all-pro guard, because he does have fluidity in his movements. Yes, his arms are short. That to me qualifies and quantifies him as an offensive guard, but he can move and he's nasty. And that's what you need in an offensive lineman. You need nastiness. You need to have a person that's able to finish a block. You need that in your lineman. I just don't see an offensive lineman being taken at number 6. I don't. I think he's a great draft pick. I think he'd be a lower first round, high second round. I think if you draft him higher in the first round, I think you're overdrafting. Now, if you need one piece to your offensive line, I think that's the way to go. However, the Browns need more than one piece on that line. Okay? So that is Francis Mayoga. Next is Makai Lemon, wide receiver out of USC. Let's take a look at Makai Lemon.
Receivers in any stacked positional class, the order prospects go in at the top comes down to preference. Makai Lemon finds himself in that conversation for wide receiver 1. What role does he fit in the NFL? Find out in this drill. Lemon is coming off a phenomenal year for USC, where he broke out in a big way, capping off his year with a consensus All-American and winning the Biletnikoff before declaring for the NFL draft. Lemon comes in at 5'11" and 195 pounds, which is becoming acceptable size for wide receivers on the outside, but did most of his damage for USC in the slot. His best attribute is his savviness at the wide receiver position. He is an experienced player and has a nuanced understanding of the position. There are so many small things he does that helps him win. He adds to this with great route running ability. His acceleration is great, and he understands how to use tempo based on defensive coverages to stay open for his QB. Lemon runs a full route tree and can really threaten a defense on all 3 levels, although he does his best work in the intermediate area, where his quickness and ball skills really shine. Lemon is a tough player who is capable and willing to make a catch knowing he's going to get hit and holding on to the ball. Lemon has great focus and hands, which allows his QB to be more comfortable throwing him balls in tight windows. Lemon's biggest obstacle to NFL success is his athletic ability. Lemon is quicker than he is fast, and he should test decently well, but doesn't have burner speed. He does well to work through physicality, but he will be limited in the NFL by stronger and faster corners. For a pro comp, Lemon reminds me of Jackson Smith and Jigba as a prospect. JSN has blossomed into one of the best receivers in the NFL, but coming out in the draft, there were questions about his top-end speed and being slot limited. However, like JSN, Lemon's ability to win with his technicals and route running ability should allow him to succeed in the NFL. For draft range, Lemon's physical limitations will restrict him from being a top pick in the draft. Teams at the top simply need that ceiling that Lemon realistically does not provide. However, JSN has proven you don't need to be an athletic monster to succeed, and Lemon should be a first-round pick. Bearing a disaster at the NFL Combine with his 40 time, Lemon should be a mid-range first-round pick to any team needing a high-volume, reliable target for their team.
As a second-round pick. He's more of a slot receiver. He compared him to Jackson Smith and Jigba. Okay, I could see that, but the Browns don't need another slot receiver. I think Isaiah Bond, once he's properly coached, I think Isaiah Bond will be a tremendous slot receiver in the Browns offense. Okay. So there is your draft. So Makai Lemon, wide receiver out of USC, Francis Mayoga, offensive lineman from Miami. All right. All right. Before we get into our next segment, remember, if you have not subscribed to the Locker Room, I want you to go to the Locker Room 34. Like, subscribe, leave your comments. I'm for all the smoke. I don't have any problem. I say what I want to say and how I want to say it on this platform. And so I always say, you may not like what I'm saying, but you will listen. So if you want to come on in and join me, come on in and type in the Locker Room 34 and come and join me. I'm here every Saturday around 11 o'clock, okay, Mountain Standard Time, talking Cleveland sports. Also, if you have not subscribed to the Locker, not the Locker Room, but the Three the Hard Way, me and my man L Train and the captain Terrence Austin, we go on Mondays. We talk about Cleveland sports. We're on YouTube, just three Cleveland guys talking about Cleveland sports. So if you have not joined us on Three the Hard Way, I do not know what you guys are waiting on. You got two Cleveland sports talk shows and you haven't joined? Come on now. If you're a Clevelander, I don't know why. You need to go ahead and join the Locker Room and then get into Three the Hard Way. All right? All right. Let's talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers. So there were a couple trades the other day. DeAndre Hunter was traded to the Sacramento Kings for Dennis Schroeder and Keon Ellis. And then Lonzo Ball was traded to the Utah Jazz, where he was subsequently bought out. But the big trade was Darius Garland goes to the Los Angeles Clippers for James Harden. So there are a lot of people out there that are wondering what I think about this trade. Originally, I did not like it. You know, first time you hear the trade, you know, you think with your heart. But now that I'm in sports talk, I have to sometimes take a moment and remove the emotion and understand the business side of it. I understand the DeAndre Hunter trade, and I break it down like this. A couple weeks ago, it was reported that DeAndre Hunter asked for a trade out of Cleveland. And then he came out with his representation and said, oh, he loves it in Cleveland. He didn't want to be traded. Cleveland still traded him. That makes me believe that he did ask for a trade. He just didn't want it to get out. So DeAndre Hunter was traded to what I call NBA Siberia, which is the Sacramento Kings. And then behind that, Lonzo Ball. Lonzo Ball was traded, and I couldn't wait for Lonzo Ball to be traded. No disrespect to the young man, but he could not hit the broadside of a barn. And his thing was he was brought in to, you know, be a bigger guard to back up Darius Garland, had defense, could pass, and could, you know, occasionally hit an open shot. Well, the problem was he did not hit an open shot. He was not a good shooter. I think he was 30% from the field. He was not hitting his shots. He's a tremendous passer. But there were times that I saw Lonzo Ball penetrate to the basket and throw the ball out. It made absolutely no sense to me. And then I think the thing that got Lonzo sent out of here, other than his shooting, was that his defense started to lack. He wasn't defending. He wasn't doing what he was really brought to Cleveland to do. So he was traded to Utah, which saved the Cleveland Cavaliers about $10 million in the luxury tax. And then Darius Garland. Once again, everybody, remove the emotion. There are reports that have not come out. Okay? Darius Garland was a defensive liability. There was a video that came out some time ago where it was LeBron James, Kevin Durant, and I believe Steve Nash. And they were talking about how the smaller point guard is being phased out. And they used Darius Garland as an example. They said that, and I remember Kevin Durant said, Darius Garland, tremendous ball player, him and LeBron, tremendous ball player, can score at will when he feels like it, can get to the cup when he feels like it. But they said on the defensive end, they're going to isolate him and post him up because they know that he's not big enough to defend them. That's one reason why I think Darius Garland was traded. Number two, Darius Garland was not scoring at the level that he needed to. I think he got away with it because he was averaging 25 a game at one point in time in his All-Star year. But he wasn't scoring, and he was often injured. And you cannot spend $100 million on a point guard that is often injured. Plus, there was some rumors that went around, and I'm not really about rumors and innuendos. So, but I'm gonna put it out here because it could be true that there was issues in the organization about Darius Garland's work ethic. Now, I think it's not. I don't think it's true, but it was thrown out there. Okay. So those trades were taking place. So you got back James Harden, Hall of Famer, and James Harden is now the point guard in Cleveland. 36-year-old James Harden. And then once again, people are saying, Coach, how you feel about that? James Harden doesn't play defense either. Here's the difference, though. James Harden is still averaging 22 to 25 points a game at 36 years old with rebounds and assists. He makes big men better. So they're believing that he's going to come in, not only get his in, be able to work with Donovan Mitchell, but be able to get Evan Mobley and Jared Allen to another level. So I understand the investment. Okay? But also look behind the scenes, y'all. Kobe Altman is setting up something. And what I mean by Kobe Altman is setting up something is if you don't believe that LeBron James will end up back in Cleveland next year, then something's wrong with you. But it's not just that. Kobe Altman is setting up something behind the scenes for the Cavaliers to make a run over the next 4 to 6 years. And I'm not talking about LeBron James being around in the next 4 years. I'm not talking about James Harden or maybe even Donovan being around in the next 4 years. But you got Jalen Tyson. You have Craig Porter Jr. You have Naquan Tomlin. Okay? You have players, your young players who are now coming up. Evan Mobley is still going to be around. So Kobe Altman is setting up something. And I think people are missing it. Okay? But did Kobe Altman come up with the idea of trading for James Harden? No. I don't believe that in a million years. Donovan Mitchell is the mastermind of all of this. He's a superstar player who wants to win. And in his mind, the way that the team was constructed, they were not winning the Eastern Conference. He did not believe in Darius Garland defensively. He did not believe in a smaller backcourt. He did not believe in Lonzo Ball. He knew that DeAndre Hunter wasn't bought in. But also the emergence of Jalen Tyson was the reason why Hunter was sent to Sacramento. I have no doubt in my mind. Because Jalen Tyson can hit the open shot and he can defend. Where DeAndre Hunter is an iso ball guy. Okay? But I believe beyond a shadow of a doubt that Donovan Mitchell was the mastermind of this trade, of these trades that took place. Kobe Altman tried to deflect in his press conferences saying they advised that they asked for advice for Donovan, but Donovan did not make this decision. I believe that's a bunch of BS. Kobe Altman sat down with Donovan Mitchell and said, how can we make this team better? Along with Kenny Atkinson. How can we make this team better? How coincidental is it that James Harden chose to go to Cleveland? Him and Donovan Mitchell are friends. Okay? Why is it that Darius Garland was sent away and you brought in Dennis Schroeder? And for those that thought that Craig Porter Jr. was going to get traded, I could have told you that Craig Porter Jr. wasn't going to get traded. Craig Porter Jr. plays defense. He can score a little bit, but he's been averaging 8 assists a game coming off the bench. I can tell you Craig Porter wasn't going anywhere. Okay? Craig Porter does something that Darius Garland couldn't do, which was defend. So yes, I believe that Donovan Mitchell was the mastermind of this entire trading thing with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Okay. So we have James Harden at the point, Donovan Mitchell at the 2. I think Jalen Tyson will be at the 3. Of course, Evan Mobley at the 4 and Jared Allen at the 5. That's pretty nasty. They play, I believe, Sacramento tonight. DeAndre Hunter got hurt last night, so I don't know. He'll be a game time decision. But I'm curious to see. They played the Clippers the other night without Harden, and they absolutely blew the doors off of them. I just saw something different. I saw a swarm of defensive intensity, something that they didn't have before. I saw guys flying all over the place, saw steals and dunks and 3-point shots, and the Cavs were looking like the Cavs of old. Okay, so I'm curious to see with James Harden being implemented tonight, how the Cleveland Cavaliers look. All right. There were some other trades that took place. And I'm looking through my wire here. I know Nikolai Vukovic went to Boston. That's off the top of my head. I think that was a great acquire. I know Kristaps Porzingis was traded to the Golden State Warriors for Kuminga. Kuminga finally gets out of Golden State. And then Steve Kerr wanted to come back and, I'm sorry that it didn't work out. No, you're not sorry. You wanted Kuminga out of there. Kuminga's gone. Draymond Green is next. I think Steve Kerr is just trying to change the culture. So they did get Porzingis, and Kuminga was traded. Anthony Davis was traded to Washington. He teams up with Trae Young. I know Cap sent me a stat on Trae Young being one of the top clutch players. I don't really care how clutch you are. It's about winning. And Trae Young is not a winner. So all the stats that people want to send me when it comes to Trae Young's efficiency and all of that blah blah, does what he do, and my English teacher gonna kill me for saying that, what he does it equate to winning? And the answer is no. Now, he's in Washington. Him, Anthony Davis, Alex Sars. The Wizards are tanking. Because they got number 1 draft picks. They're trying to rebuild. And I give them credit for doing that. Giannis Antetokounmpo was not traded. I could have told you that he wasn't going to be traded. Giannis is better off going into free agency. He'll get more money going into free agency. He might as well just play his way out of Milwaukee. I knew Milwaukee was asking for a ridiculous package back for Giannis Antetokounmpo. So the Bucks ex-nayed on that trade. Okay. There were other trades, other Minimowski trades that took place, but those major ones, we'll see. I think who won the draft, who won the trade deadline. I'm a homer. I think the Cavs won the trade deadline. I do. I could be wrong. There's some other trades that's out there that took place. Ja Morant has not gone anywhere. And right now, I think Ja Morant is he's in danger. And what I mean by in danger is his reputation is getting around the league, and as athletic he is, he could easily turn into OJ Mayo, where you can be as athletic as possible, but can't last in the league. It's humbling turning from a superstar into a journeyman. So Ja Morant need to get it together. Okay. Now, are the Cavaliers now contenders now with this James Harden trade? I believe they are. I believe they're right where they want to be. I believe, and I keep saying this, that after the All-Star break, they're going to make a run. They have 30 games left to become a cohesive unit, and I think the Cavaliers are going to make a run. I'm not saying they're going to make the NBA Finals, but I'm saying that they're not going to be an easy out. They're not going to be an easy out by any stretch of the means. And there is not one team in the Eastern Conference for me that frightens me. Not Detroit, not New York, not Orlando, not Boston, none of them. They don't scare me at all. The way that the Cavaliers are constructed. Okay. Now, does that mean the Cavs are going to go in and blow everybody out the water? No. But when you have a backcourt of Donovan Mitchell and James Harden, it's going to be difficult. You're going to have elite defenders everywhere. Okay. So I think they're in the running. Okay. Last I checked, I think they were 4th or 5th in the Eastern Conference. They're a couple games out of second place. So this next 30-game stretch is going to tell a lot. Okay. All right. Switching gears. Let's talk Super Bowl. So we have the New England Patriots and the Seattle Seahawks. And I said this on 3 the Hard Way, by the way. If you are not a subscriber of 3 the Hard Way, please, oh, please, go to YouTube, subscribe to 3 the Hard Way Sports Podcast, Sports Talk, and you'll see me, my man L Train, and the captain, Terrence Austin. We talk, like I said, we talk sports all day. But on that show, I made a prediction, and I'm the only one that made this prediction and took the New England Patriots. I said the Patriots will win 26-24. Here is my reasoning for that. Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel has been in those wars. Mike Vrabel has been in those Super Bowl games with the Patriots. Mike Vrabel is a disciple of Bill Belichick. Mike Vrabel. And I think that, and the thing about Belichick is, what does he do well? What did he do well? In the NFL, Bill Belichick always took one thing away from a team and made them one-dimensional. And I believe that Mike Vrabel will stop the Seattle running game and cause Sam Darnold to have to beat him. Now, for all the Minnesota Vikings fans, I know y'all are praying that Sam Darnold lays an egg. Okay? I believe that Sam Darnold will have difficulty if he is relied on to win the game. Now, my man L Train says he believes that Sam Darnold will be the Super Bowl MVP. And I say he has to be, to me, for Seattle to win. If they shut down their running game, Sam Darnold has to be MVP. I don't think it's in Sam Darnold's DNA. Where Drake May, he's young. He don't know no better. And I think Drake May is going to go out there and let it fly. Okay? Could be wrong, but I'm riding with New England right now. I'm not a Patriots fan. Y'all know that. But I just see something in Drake May that I haven't seen in any other quarterback. Okay? So, New England, 26, Seattle, 24. Now, I'm going to come back on here, and I'm going to either say, hey, I was right. I'm going to come on here and say, all right, I'm not picking no more NFL games again. All right. Primetime speech, y'all. Deion Sanders went on press row during the Super Bowl, and he spoke. And no one has really heard Deion speak when it came to Shador and other, topics. And so I just wanted to highlight Deion Sanders for his professionalism, Deion Sanders for how he spoke when asked would he coach in the NFL. And he said, no way, not the way that they did his son. He would coach in the NFL. Now, he's focused in on Colorado, and Colorado got enough problems as it is, and he's really trying to work through those things. But I understand his candor in terms of his son, and Deion Sanders was consistent. Deion Sanders is very entertaining and very interesting to listen to. And so when he spoke about the NFL and he spoke about his son Shador, he just spoke positively about Shador and how he has worked his way to this point and how he's going to continue to work. And so, shout out to Deion Sanders and him going on press row and really just not really saying much in terms of being detrimental to his kids and to the NFL, but he let it be known that he wasn't happy with what took place, and I agree with him. And like I said, I'm not a Shadurian. I want to see the Browns have the best quarterback behind center, but I do want to see that young man have the opportunity to at least shoot his shot. And I think that was not given to him by the previous regime, is that they didn't give him an opportunity to shoot his shot. But I believe at this point, Todd Monken and his group is going to give him the proper ability to shoot his shot. Okay? All right. Also, Shador was in the Pro Bowl. Him and Denzel Ward represented the Cleveland Browns. Myles Garrett was a Pro Bowler, but he decided not to participate in the Pro Bowl activities, because I think the last time he did, he hurt his toe. So he just decided to just be at the NFL honors. Shador did pretty well through a couple picks. But one of the picks, Jamar Chase, came off his hands. He should have caught it. The other one was a bad pick. But the Pro Bowl is not the Pro Bowl anymore. That's a whole different type of subject that we could talk about when it comes to the Pro Bowl. The Pro Bowl is a shell of itself. Now, I know someone has asked me, did I believe that Shador Sanders was a Pro Bowler? I meant to talk about it last week, and so I'll touch about it right now. In the old realm of the Pro Bowl, Shador Sanders is not a Pro Bowler because they went by stats. Shador Sanders is not a Pro Bowler. I get it. I understand what G. Bush said. Love G. Bush. Shout out to the barbershop. That, he was elected in by the NFL. The NFL elected him in there. But if we're going by the old standards of the Pro Bowl, Shador Sanders should not have been there. But he was there. Shador Sanders is box office, and that's why the NFL did that. Also, from Shador Sanders' standpoint, I think it was an opportunity from him to learn from legends of the game. Steve Young, Jerry Rice, Eli and Peyton Manning, Michael Vick. It gave him an opportunity to learn. So I cheer at the fact that he took it. And for those that sat there and said he should not have gone to the Pro Bowl, I need you to be quiet because you've never played a down of football in your life. Now, I said no, he did not stat-wise qualify for the Pro Bowl. But it wasn't that the fans voted him in. The NFL voted him in. Get mad at the NFL. And I heard someone say, well, they're just using him. No, Shador is using them. Okay? So right now, Shador is QB1 in Cleveland. He is a Pro Bowler. So now he's got to go out and prove that everything sticks. And that's why I think Todd Monken comes in, and that's what I think Monken is going to do with him. Is he going to be the next coming of Lamar Jackson? No. But is he going to be a top 10 quarterback by the time I believe Monken is done with him? Yes. You heard me say top 10, y'all. I think he'll be a top 10 quarterback. All right. Another legend denied in the Hall of Fame. Owner Robert Kraft did not get enough votes to be in the Hall of Fame. Now, I'm not a Robert Kraft fan. There's some things away from football that, of course, he was acquitted of, but there were some things that apparently he did, allegedly, that he did, that I think has costed him that first ballot in the Hall of Fame. But I'm at this point, I need an investigation to take place. I need for those that did not vote for Robert Kraft, that did not vote for Bill Belichick, I need for those people to be exposed. I need for those people to come out and stand 10 toes and explain why they did not vote Bill Belichick and why they did not vote Robert Kraft into the Hall of Fame. I need them to explain themselves. And if they refuse to explain themselves, then I need their Hall of Fame credential and their Hall of Fame vote taken away from them. Because it's obvious that they didn't vote them on the accolades that they accumulated on the field. They voted against them because of personal reasons. And I need for those, whether it's beat writers, whether it's reporter, whoever they are, I need them to come out and man or woman up and say, I did not vote for Robert Kraft, and here's why. And I need them to stand on that. Because right now it looks to me that the Pro Football Hall of Fame voters, most of them are cowards. They're keyboard thugs. Okay. Robert Kraft from a football standpoint, Robert Kraft has contributed so much to the NFL from a football standpoint. Okay. When you start judging people on personal levels, then we might as well stop voting for Hall of Famers. Because if you go into the Baseball Hall of Fame, there's some questionable individuals in the Hall of Fame, in the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. There's some questionable people in there. Okay. The Pro Football Hall of Fame, there's some questionable people in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. But you decide not to elect two guys that on paper was one of the greater owners in the NFL and one of the greatest coaches in the NFL. Jimmy Johnson came out and said he's not going to another Hall of Fame ceremony. It's ridiculous. So I really need for those that did not vote for Robert Kraft and Bill Belichick to stand up, man up, and tell the world why you did not do that. And if it is a personal reason that they did not do that, their NFL voting right should be revoked. Period. All right. Going into my final segment, once again, if you have not subscribed to the Locker Room, then I'm telling you right now, you need to go ahead, go to the Locker Room 34, subscribe, like, comment, criticize, whatever you want to do. Because I'm all about the smoke. I don't have no problem with controversial takes. I do that on a daily basis. But I love my Cleveland sports. I love talking Cleveland sports. I stand by what I say. I mean what I say because I want all my Cleveland sports to win. You have to understand the only title we've had is the Cleveland Cavaliers in 2016. But I still will root for my Browns. I still root for the Cavs. I still root for the Guardians. Okay? I was even a fan back in the day when we had the Cleveland Force, MSL. So, I go back to the Richfield Coliseum. I love Cleveland sports. So, if you have not subscribed to the Locker Room, I double dog, triple dog dare you to subscribe to the Locker Room. And then let's go ahead and let's have some fun talking Cleveland sports. All right. All right. My coach's rant today is former defensive coordinator Jim Schwartz of the Cleveland Browns. And as you see, I have it typed. It says, Jim Schwartz, what's the big deal? So the pros and cons of this is this. Jim Schwartz orchestrated the number one defense in the NFL, number one, number two defense in the NFL. But shout out to my man Lionel Jones. L Train said this in our chat, and I agree with it. Why are we forgetting about when the Browns got the doors blown off of them in Texas in the playoff game? Yes, Joe Flacco threw 3 interceptions. But before he threw those 3 interceptions, the Browns were still giving up points. Okay? Let's not make Jim Schwartz being out to be the Messiah. He's a defensive coordinator that did a great job in Cleveland. But all things must come to an end. And my thing is, I'm not chasing anybody. Did I want Jim Schwartz as head coach? I did. Did he become head coach? No, he didn't. We move on. Todd Monken is the head coach. We move on. I'm not going to sit here and worry about somebody who is upset, and rightfully so, he should be. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. We can't do anything about it. Jimmy Haslam sat down and he had an opportunity to come back as defensive coordinator. He chose not to. Every day you wake up, you got 2 things. You got a choice and a chance. And so he chose to walk away. I think quietly he wanted the Browns to fire him so that he could get paid for the rest of the year. And the Browns said, nah, we're going to make you honor your contract. We know what you're thinking, but that ain't going that way. Okay. Now, if Jim Schwartz wanted to, like I said, he could go and get another job, but he would have to be elevated past the defensive coordinator position for the Browns to let him go. Do I believe the Browns should let him go? I believe the Browns should let him out of his contract. That'd be the right thing to do, because at the end of the day, we don't know what the Browns said to Jim Schwartz. But I'm not going to sit up here and cry about Jim Schwartz not being in Berea anymore. We move on, okay? We move on. We've had many good coaches to come through, and they've left. And so we move on. It is a new era in the Cleveland Browns, and we have to be focused on that. We cannot continue to go backwards. And that's what we've been doing, is we've been going backwards. We cannot go backwards. So I need people to understand, Jim Schwartz is no longer with the Cleveland Browns. I want to talk about the people who are with the Cleveland Browns. And is Jim Schwartz not being there a big deal? Maybe. But I'm not going to sit here and cry about it. I'm gonna focus in on who Todd Monken hires. Hopefully they can have good credentials. Hopefully they can continue to defensively be dominant, and that Todd Monken can fix the offensive line and the wide receiving core and get Shador on the right page. That's what I'm worried about. I do not have the time, energy, or patience to worry about that, how Jim Schwartz feels right now. Because Jim Schwartz is a wealthy man. He's a very wealthy man. So I'm not crying for Jim Schwartz. And you should not either. It's just time to move on. That's life. I don't know how many of you out here who see this program have lost jobs or have applied for jobs and didn't get them. Yes, there's disappointment. You're disappointed. But you get over it and you move on. And that's what I'm saying we need to do with Jim Schwartz not being in the building anymore. We need to get over it, tie our shoes up again, pull our bootstraps up, and go ahead and try to turn this organization around. That's what we need to do. We need to turn this organization around and get this organization together when it comes to the Cleveland Browns. So I'm not missing Jim Schwartz. Jim Schwartz can move on. And whoever the new defensive coordinator, I said, Jason Tarver, is one that's going to be about one of the candidates that they'll use. So not a big fan of Jim Schwartz. It's time for him to move on. All right. So listen, y'all. That is my time. I told you I was only going to be here an hour, y'all. That's my time, okay? We've talked the Todd Monken introduction. We've talked about Jim Schwartz. We've talked about the Cleveland Cavaliers. Like I said, and let's get to some chats real quick while I have a moment. What we got here? My nephew Brandon, what can be done to make a playoff team next season? If we're talking about the Cleveland Browns, one of the quick formulas that I had, and if you're talking about the Browns or the Cavs, just put it in the chat. One of the formulas that I had in terms of changing the Browns around quickly is this. You have Wyatt Teller at guard. You have DeJuan Jones coming back. I would let DeJuan Jones know that this is his final season. If he gets hurt again, he's done. Luke Whippler did a pretty good job at center the last few games of the year. I would put Whippler. Okay, you say Browns and Cavs. I would put Whippler at center. I would take Wyatt Teller and replace Joe Bitonio with Wyatt Teller. Move him from right guard to left guard. DeJuan Jones would go back to right guard because Jack Conklin is gone, which he should be. Bitonio's going to retire. He's going to retire. Joe Bitonio's not coming back. He's done. They're not going to renew his contract. They're not. And Joe Bitonio looked like a shell of himself last year. So Bitonio will be gone. Wyatt Teller, I would put, and this is just a quick fix. Now, we can still go through the draft, but I'm just saying if you want me to quick fix this offensive line, I'm going to move, I'm going to have Whippler at center. I'm going to have Wyatt Teller at left guard. I'm going to have DeJuan Jones at right tackle. So now I got to look for a left tackle and a right guard. And we can go. Now, Batonio, like I said, he was a shell of himself toward the end of the year. Wyatt Teller is good for the run. Wyatt Teller would have to, and a lot of it is coaching, but Wyatt Teller would have to be coached up because his pass protection is not really good. So I would work Wyatt Teller up in his pass protection. Okay. That would be my quick fix. Brandon comes back and he says, well, what about the wide receiver? So here we go. So the wide receiver position, you have Jerry Jeudy, Isaiah Bond, Cedric Tillman, and hamburgers and french fries after that. You have Njoku, who I don't think they're going to sign, Harold Fannin Jr., who is an absolute stud. So how do you fix the wide receiver core? Okay. So if Tyson is at 6, I would take Tyson at number 6. If Tyson or the receiver out of Ohio State, if those two are not there, then I'm going to trade down, and then I may grab the wide receiver out of Indiana. Yeah, so I that you can rebuild your receiving core through the draft and through free agency. Now, there's not really too many free agents out here that I would actually even think about. I mean, there's Deebo Samuel, who's a commander. You can look at Deebo Samuel. Mike Evans is a free agent, but Mike Evans is old. He just came off of a major injury, and I would not mess with Mike Evans. But you can build, because Jerry Jeudy is not a number 1. Jerry Jeudy is actually a number 2. So you got to get a number 1, okay? And so that's why I would draft a rookie receiver, or like I said, you can go grab a Deebo Samuel. I think Isaiah Bond is an actual slot receiver, and I think he's a good slot receiver. He takes the top off of things. So. And then, like I said, you have Harold Fannin Jr. If you want to re-sign Njoku, you could on your dime. But I think Njoku's done. I think he's out of shape. He's not a good route runner. I just think it's time to move on from David Njoku. His most successful year was with Joe Flacco. But I just would not waste my time with that. When it comes to the Cleveland Cavaliers, real quick, because that's what Brandon was talking about. He's talking about Browns and Cavs. I think, like I said, I think this is a setup. Kobe Altman is set up for the next 4 years. And I'm not saying 4 years with James Harden and Donovan Mitchell. I think he's setting up to where he can win now. Possibly if LeBron returns, he can win next year. And then when those guys start dropping off, now you're implementing the Jalen Tysons. You're implementing the Naquan Tomlins. You're implementing the Craig Porter Juniors. You know what I mean? You're implementing those guys. And now, because you've just created a winning culture. And I think that's what Kobe Altman is trying to do, is create a winning culture. And so when you create a winning culture, people want to come and they want to play for your team because they know your culture is geared to winning. Okay? Hope those answer all your questions, B. Yes, y'all, this is my time, man. This is the Locker Room. I am your friendly neighborhood coach. And listen, I am on here at 11 o'clock Mountain Standard Time every single Saturday. If you have not subscribed to the Locker Room, then I need you to subscribe to the Locker Room, because I talk Cleveland sports. I talk about them all day. If you don't catch me here, then you can catch me on 3 the Hard Way with my man L Train and the captain Terrence Austin. We talk Cleveland sports as well. So I got to get out of here. I will see you guys next week. Hopefully, you guys enjoy the Super Bowl. Have as many wings and French fries as you can. All right. And I will see you guys later. Remember, love on somebody. Tell somebody you love them. Don't always assume that they know. I'll see y'all later.